Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
I assume this meeting will be not that well attended as the other ones with the Hedera Dev Day happening in Denver, including a Hiero booth. So a lot of the people who are normally in this meeting are currently in Denver. But anyway, I assume we will have a good discussion here. So let me open the agenda and ping people to attend. Okay.
Hendrik, did Jessica go to Denver as well?
Yes.
Yeah, she did. Okay.
She's at the Hiero booth
Okay.
together with Sophie and Rob.
All right. So
Both
this is
both three run the booth. That's, I think, a great booth setup. Okay, so let me share the agenda and minutes for today. And welcome to the Hiero TSC call. Like any call of the Hiero project, this is a public call. You can find information about all our calls, including the technical steering committee calls and other community calls like the Hiero SDK call or the specific Python SDK call or our marketing call, what happens directly after this one. All in our public calendar, which is linked on our webpage and on GitHub and in the meeting minutes. And in that public calendar, you can register yourself to upcoming meetings so that those are added to your calendar. And if you miss a meeting, you can go to any previous meeting, like the TSC call of last week, and watch a recording of it, or have a look at any AI-based minutes of that meeting. Next to that, we have in the governance repo of Hiero in our wiki, our agenda and meeting section for a lot of different of those calls where we manually in Markdown keep track of those. So if I go like to the last week TSC call, oh no, that is the this week TSC call. That's already the one for next week. Prepared, you will see like the minutes of that one with key decisions and so on, which is always helpful to have a look at. And since he's just joined, which is done by Brandon, so thanks again for working on that topic. And with that, since all that happens in the open, and we ask you to participate in all those meetings, join our discussions, ask questions. So all those meetings happen under the Code of Conduct of the Linux Foundation and the antitrust policy of the Linux Foundation. And with that, let's jump into the agenda of today's meeting. And we normally start with a short overview of the last TSC call. And in the last TSC call, we had two main topics. One was the HIPS topics, where we voted on two HIPS who both got approved by the TSC. And then we had a started discussion regarding how to bring HIPS more into the community. How can the community interact more about HIPS and learn more about HIPS? And the second topic we had last week was about the goals for 2026 of the Hiero project that Jessica has shown to us, and those goals has been shown previously to the maintainers in the maintainers monthly too. So with the goal that we as a community have an idea about what we would like to achieve in this year for sure. This is a community, a lot of individual people working in their free time and so on. So those goals are not like must have milestones with hard deadlines or anything. It's more about the vision we want to follow and the direction we as a global project want to go to. And if you missed that one, you can find in the previous minutes a link to that goals document. Oh, the link has been removed. I put it there. Um, oh, here it is. Hiero project goals summary, and here you have a link to that one, even with the video recording from the maintainers day and the Google Doc showing all the individual goals that are defined for Hiero next year. So that was more or less what happened in the last TSC call. If I have missed anything, sorry for that. You can raise hand and at any point, if you think I missed something. If not, that brings us to the second point of the agenda for today, which is updates from the community, from all of you on any projects, events, anything interested that you would like to share with the Hiero community. So happy to hear from you. If you have any interesting news, please raise your hand and share those news with us. Any news somebody would like to share? Okay. With that, I would like to bring in a reminder what I already did about our public community calls. What I have not did is about our Discord that we have that should be used for public discussions, for a simple way to ask questions to committers, maintainers, and the community in general. We have channels there for our projects like the SDKs, like Solo, and so on. So if you have any questions, that is a good point to find those people and ask those questions. Since several people of the TSC are not here today, we do not have quorum, so we cannot vote on any HIPs today, but as far as I know, when looking at the HIPS tracker, there is no HIP that should be presented today. We have some HIPs that will come to the TSC in near future. I think Keith, last time you said about like 2 weeks or something when the first one of those came up. So it will be within the next weeks, but today we won't have any presentation. Is that correct, Keith?
Yeah, I guess the guidance I'd provide is that I think HIP 31 is stable and I think ready for, it'd be great if everyone could do a look at that more closely. The one where there's probably still some changes why we're not bringing it to TSC yet is around HIP 1340. You can expect a few more tweaks and changes to that HIP. So yeah, I would say HIP 1341 is in pretty final condition. HIP 1340 is still, there still will be some modifications before we bring it to TSC.
Okay. So if anybody is curious and would like to be well prepared for the upcoming presentation of that HIP, I share it here and I just see Alex is writing in the chat that he would like to have the link to the project code. So I'm totally happy to share that one here too. So this is the link to the Hiero project goals for 2026. Um, and with that, actually, since we already knew that not so many people will be here today, there are no other topics on the agenda for today, but we have a lot of time left. So that would be your chance to bring in any other business to the TSC because it's not only me. I mean, we have Stoyan, Georgie, Brandon, Milan, and Alex here from the TSC. So if you would like to discuss anything with us, bring any topic to the TSC, maybe even for any upcoming meeting so that we can add it to the agenda, this would be the perfect point to raise your hand and yeah, start a discussion. And I'm seeing Milan has his camera now on, so I assume he would like to say something. Is that correct?
Well, not necessarily, but yeah, definitely. If anybody will to address any questions whatsoever, happy to answer together with Brandon. Brandon also had turned his
Oh,
video,
perfect.
and Keith has turned on the video. Man, it's like a whole video party here.
Yeah, Keith, and it looks like Keith wants to say something because he has hands up.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up a topic to the TSC. I think maybe this is a good time for it, and get everyone's input. This is on everyone's favorite topic, docs. So maybe I can start with a few precursors here. Like every repo within Hiero, can decide on their own strategy for how they want to present documentation for their repo to the outside world. That part's clear. I think though that you know, I think in some ways we do see other Linux Foundation repos taking a more unified approach towards docs. Maybe they have like one docs repo for all projects, or maybe every project has its own docs repo. I think within Hiero right now we have a mixed bag. Obviously, just as a hangover, a lot of docs still live on docs.hedera.com, and I think we're looking at that and how do we update that. But there's a nuance here is that like docs.hedera.com is hosted on Mintlify. That makes those docs extremely pretty searchable, easily consumed by AI. So then when we start looking at other solutions, like if let's say the Solo project, they have their docs on more of a traditional like a Hugo Doxy platform. Perfectly fine. I would say not pretty, not easily consumable by AI, doesn't have a lot of great UI UX features. Obviously there's other open source docs platforms out there like MK Docs, Docosaurus, like other ones you can choose from. Usually they require quite a bit of work to set up and maintain. So this is just a question. And then other repos, let's say like Miranode, the docs just kind of sit in the README as kind of links. I mean, I think not bad from an open source perspective, but yet not very easily readable. You're just clicking into like READMEs on the folder itself. So I wondered if there was, again, understanding that at the end of the day, every repo can do their own thing. Although I do think as a support, if we can offer a more unified solution for repos, then that might make their lives easier. But it'd be up to them. Um, so yeah, it's just something that I've been thinking about recently about how we deal with this. Like, also on one of the solutions I've been playing around with, which I don't know a lot of people like, is the hybrid approach. Like as I said, our docs can live on docs.hedera.com, but the files themselves, the markdown files, or in this case, the MDX files, can live in the repo itself and are readable on the repo. So it's kind of like a hybrid. Like you can go to the repo, you can see the MD file, the markdown files, so you can see the docs, but then you can have a more prettified version of those docs in something like a docs.hedera.com or something else. So I'm going to stop there. Yeah, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts and opinions.
Brendan was first. I'm just searching for it. I do like this, but Brendan was first, hands up.
Um, I was just gonna say, Keith, I remember the conversations about this and maybe just adding my 2 cents to the conversation as well, kind of having thought about it is I think that all, different projects are going to want to use different docs for whatever reason. I think that possibly, and I don't know if this exists already with LF, but maybe some kind of like best practices or recommended platforms, or like, is there some kind of like criteria, or I don't know what it would be, but like, I imagine maybe some new projects maybe not being familiar with some of the platforms available, or what makes good documentation good in this context. Like, it might be difficult to get people to align under one platform, but we might be able to like up the quality of documentation and make it a little more cohesive or something. So may, maybe we make a docs website for it. I don't know.
I mean, LF does have some patterns that we could use. And I see a bunch of hands up. I just want to make one other comment. I do think that some projects probably do have a docs preference. I think a lot of other projects would rather not have to deal with this if they don't want to. I mean, it's a lot of work setting up a docs platform, stylizing it, maintaining it. I'm not sure every project wants to take on that overhead. But yeah, go ahead, Hendrik.
I was just gonna say, could we possibly have like the out of the box Hiero docs kit or something where it's like some super lightweight, bare bones, easy peasy thing where it's like, if you make sure your projects has docs, here's a little recommended thing, here's a little template we have, there you go, kind of thing.
Yeah. I like those ideas, maybe not concentrating on tooling, however it is done, right? What I really would like to see is we have docs.hiero.org, and we have a lot of documentation that is not reachable from this page. So, and there where I'm totally with Keys. So, in general, projects can structure their documentation as they want and so on. But since we now have this starting point, independent of tooling or whatever, it would be great if, we get from this, hey, that's the docs page of Hiero, from that starting point to documentation that projects within Hiero provide. And Keith mentioned several different things like, for example, the solo documentation, which has a website that is rendered in a different way. I can open it and then show something else that we have at Hiero, just to show you what we have, and where a lot of people have no idea that we have it. Oh, is it not linked here? Maybe it's linked in the README.
It's a solo.docs.org. You want the website? I think it's
solo.hiero.org. It's this one which has docs here, which is again, like a different approach. And then we have, when I go to the Python SDK, which has a lot of documentation, just directly within the Python SDK, where I can go to docs, and you see some folders, but if I go into it, there was so much documentation here in it with so much information. This goes now down to even what is protobuf and what you can learn about protobuf and what is like step by step to understand protobuf, which from my point of view is not even Python specific, but is, like over all SDKs. And I agree with Keeson that we're moving in totally different directions here. And maybe when we started Hiero, we already thought about that. Maybe that was too early, but coming back to this now and thinking how we can move that again together is a very good thing. Yeah. And Mike has hands up.
Thanks, Hendrik. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably just going to repeat kind of what other people have said, but we have the same problem that most blockchains have, where we have like 1,000 different fragmented sources of documentation. Has anybody here seen a good way to sort of bring that all together? I mean, like from my perspective, I would want to just have one interface to interact with that could go and fetch documentation from all the different sources that we could ingest. Has anyone seen anyone do that successfully? I'm not really sure how difficult the problem that is. I'm sure it's at least somewhat difficult, and there are many like solutions that might work, but until you try and do it, I'm not sure if they would work. But I mean, we have this problem within Hedera Council of all our documentation sources. Like, I'd really love like something which could just bring it all together. Does anyone have any ideas about how to do that?
I mean, there are some Linux projects that have consolidated it. Maybe I want to make one other call out. I think the big change, there has been a revolution in docs, right? Like, yes, in the past, you could use a platform like Docs here or MDK Docs, but AI is changing stuff, right? Like nowadays, people are not reading docs. People are consuming docs through AI, which means that like you need things like you need functionality like MPC servers, which you're not going to get from the open source docs platforms. So, we just went through the change in docs.hedera.com to switch over to Mintlify platform, which is a hosted platform, but it offers all of those nifty AI features, which I think are like almost becoming an absolute requirement for any consumption of docs. So, that was the suggestion I suggested before, Mike, which I think is getting resistance, but like, does Hiero get a hosted platform like Mintlify? Docs can sit as MD files within individual repos. So if you want to consume them there, you can. But then if you want to, you can consume them, you can have them all in a single place because you can just have like Mintlify point at the different repos. But I think there's often like a resistance to having a commercial solution on an open source project. But I don't know how we get these, like, how do we have the best AI and visualization features for users? Like to me, you just can't get those through open source platforms these days. Yeah, Henrik.
I think we have a lot of commercial solutions in Hiero. I mean, we have from security tools, we use GitHub. I mean, we have, like we pay for GitHub, we pay for GitHub Actions, we pay for several commercial solutions. I would say as long as that is not a vendor login, so as long as, like we do not put the documentation files into that system and we'll never get them out, I would say if we have the money to use a commercial product that provide all the features we need, we should go with it. So why reinvent the wheel and create some technology that others or functionalities that others already did better? That's my point of view here. And Alex has hands up.
Yeah, I appreciate Keith's point about consumption of docs changing and AI playing a significant role. I think at least today, the behaviors tend to be, I use AI to at least give me some summarization, get me 80%. But there still has to be some access to the underlying documentation to get to those nuanced aspects. Otherwise, you're kind of reading Shakespeare, like Romeo and Juliet, and getting AI to tell you two crazy teenagers get fall in love and then end up dead, and that's what you end up with, right? And you want to get to the nuances there. So to that point I still believe that there's an opportunity to have some more human direct interface, whether it's an index, but also to potentially provide some guidelines around how to make it AI friendly, but also structuring it particularly to indicate how those components fit into the larger Hiero ecosystem or architecture as well. So they're not just all atomic type of documents there. So does it answer the question? No, but just some points I had around both kind of where we are today and think that there's like what we've heard earlier, a hybrid approach towards addressing this. But I think it starts off with some agreed upon common structure that we believe is most advantageous for us.
Okay. I don't know, Hendrik. Hendrik, you still have your hands up. I don't
No,
know if
I have
you
no
want.
idea how to do hands down when sharing the screen.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Diane?
Yeah, so I was just going to say that David Boswell and Rye from the staff of the LFDT have a very deep background in setting up infrastructure for documentation. So one of them, once we have a set of questions, we could pull them in and ask them for some advice too. I kind of agree with if we can afford it and there is some software, Keith, that you would recommend of maybe suggesting them to them looking at that and setting it up for the entire project and for all the sub projects and tying it in if we can afford that and find the funding for it. But I know they have some deep experience. I hate always waving the Kubernetes community in front of us, but they've got a pretty good unified set for community documentation, but it's not perfect either. So I'd like to hear some of their thoughts about what they're doing across the Linux Foundation. And again, just not to reinvent the wheel if they have something.
Well, I would just say, Diane, is that when I look upon the best of breed, like Kubernetes, when I look at their docs, yes, they have a consolidated docs, and yes, it's readable, but they don't have what I would consider to be like they don't have like day-night mode. They don't have like all the
Correct.
AI features. Their searchability sucks. So it's just
Yeah.
like that's the problem, I think, with a lot of these open source platform solutions is that yes, I mean it does the job, but it's not like
It's not,
fun.
it's not perfect. I'm not saying that. And I just know that, but I think it is a good base for the source. And then if you put the AI platform on top of that or use that to consume it, that might be a better way. And I haven't been paying enough attention. I don't think Kubernetes community has been doing any of that work. So I'd be curious. It might be a Linux Foundation wide initiative somewhere that we could um, get into to see if there is something that is open source, or at least there's a product that the Linux Foundation would recommend or has experience with, and that would be my
They
two
do,
cents.
they do recommend a product. It's just I don't think it. Yeah, but I just want to say one more thing. I'm going to know your hands up. My suggestion would be maybe I can put together a more refined proposal about what I suggest we do. I mean, the cost is not that much. It doesn't cost that much to get a Mintlify instance. It's surprisingly pretty, surprisingly pretty cheap. But yeah, I'd love to, we could talk more about what the structure of that would look like, what the implications of that are, all that stuff. And again, we would not force every project to use it. We just have this as an option for projects just to, if they want to use it. But yeah, Hendrik.
Yeah, I like that. And I think when you do it, one thing you need to do is talk to the project who already have doc and see what their needs are. Because I know that one point why Solo has the system they have now is they wanted to support versions so that you, like in the Solo doc, can switch the version of Solo for what the doc is. And when I look now, so what we don't have is, for example, a release train, right? So we will never have the same version, let's say, for consensus node and the Java SDK and Solo. And having, again, one big platform and wanting to have versions conflicts a little bit. So I'm not saying that it's the wrong direction. I'm just saying we need to understand in that case what those projects wants and needs.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I've been leading the Solo Docs conversation. I mean, we actually have to redo how Solo Docs is being done. I think the agreement is we're going to move Solo Docs into its own repo because it's very problematic how it's set up today. And we're having a very active discussion whether while versioning is a very good idea, do we have the resources to support version docs is the other conversation we're having. So it's just to say like, yes, I understand that. There's a lot of things in flux. But yeah, maybe I can come back with a more formal proposal and Or, you know, I can give like option A, option B, option C, and then we can kind of talk through the pros and cons. Thank you.
Sounds cool. Thank you, Keith. Okay, any other topic somebody would like to bring up for today? If not, all of us get half an hour back, which is great too. So with that, thank you all for being here, and thanks for the discussion. Happy to see future outcome of that, and see you all in the next week TSC meeting. Bye.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.